Welcome to Press Start Turbo. This episode, we're going to the unionization. Why am I like this?
Why am I so fucked up?
Damn, you actually fucking took that full introspection in.
I was like,
crazy.
Unionization.
I could hear your thoughts,
Unionization. Welcome to Press Start Turbo. This episode, we're going into the unionization effort in games media and why it's ramping up. To help explain this, we talked to a member of the recently formed IGN Creators Guild, Tyler. Then, to wrap things up, we've been playing Dishonored and have opinions.
Oh.
Joining me today is Foxcade, K-Bash, and Billy.
Hi.
Hi.
I breathe
You breathe?
somehow.
There is a disproportional amount of Canadians on this podcast right now. I think it's
Yeah, that's right.
level.
I was gonna say that never fucking happens. This is the most Canadian.
Yeah, I'm outnumbered.
We're full Commonwealth here.
Before we get into...
Speaking of the Commonwealth.
Speaking of the Commonwealth,
Yeah.
before we... how's the king doing? Anyway, what has everyone else been playing aside from Dishonored, Billy?
We're doing the cell.
We're doing
aren't
the
we?
cell.
We're doing the cell.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
So the cell. Everybody has 1 minute to talk about a game they've been playing. I'll start right now. I'll start with what I've been playing. I do want to mention that I did get a review copy from Capcom. Thank you, Capcom. I've been playing Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. It's fucking weird. It's theatrical. It's flowing constantly. It's this weird genre bend of like tower defense RTS mixed with time management and action game. There's so much going on, but the thing is, it's done so fucking well. Everything flows into each other. Game mechanics are constantly like getting introduced, and it's just really fucking good. I would recommend people check out the demo because I don't know how to explain it otherwise. And also, if you don't like the demo, you will not like the rest of that game. I think it's also on Game Pass if you want to try it, and that's 1 minute.
Oh, wow. I'll go next, I guess. I haven't been playing too many games, apart from one that was free on Prime recently, that we've talked about on the show before, called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This game notoriously didn't do very well, and it's been interesting playing it and seeing why. The thing that stood out to me the most was the tutorial that it like throws you into right at the start of the game before it goes back in time to show you. Like it does like
it's so fucking confusing.
It throws you out because it's clearly trying to make you try and test all of the characters before it goes back and actually starts the entire narrative. But it just feels so out of place and very clearly like a last minute addition that they did because people are like, oh, they're not trying other characters because they don't know how they play. That's like put this like half baked fucking tutorial into the game.
Did you get to the Fred Durst cameo?
No.
Time's up.
That's crazy.
So I've been playing Desperados III. I think it's a game a lot of people have seen, but not a lot of people have put a lot of time into. I don't know if it's an RTS or not. It's more like, okay, it's real-time tactics. It's a lot of stealth, Wild West. But what's really weird about the game is that it's in a series, but not from the original devs, right? Like, it's from a new set of devs 19 years after the original game, but a prequel to that original game, which is insane. It's really tight. It's pretty tough, and you can see people falling off because, stealth is like the name of the game, so much like the stealth lineage, which we're talking, like what we're talking about today. A lot of resets, a lot of trial and error, but that's like the fun of the game. The real shakeup is having like up to 5 people, I think, by the end that you control, not simultaneously. You can set them in bushes and shit while you like walk one around the map, but it's fun, it's tight. You should check it out.
Wow,
that's everybody's so good at keeping in their time except Cameron.
Hey,
Spent too much time talking about Fred Durst.
That's right.
No, that was after his time. I made sure of it. Don't worry. I'm respectful about my fucking biscuitude.
what have you been playing, Shane?
So I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn, epitome of AAA Western dev sensibilities of the late 2010s. Girl with a bow, open world, climb the tower to reveal the map, hiding in bushes, stealth sections, all that jazz, which is fine. Sometimes you want like that easy slop that you can like slap a podcast onto.
Brain turn off. Just, yeah.
Exactly. The reason I want to talk about it, though, is I think the core selling point of hunting robot dinosaurs is compelling enough to keep me coming back to it for like 26 hours. Because unlike fighting human enemies, which is just boring, whatever, all of the, dinosaurs and animals have, unique qualities to hunting them beyond just, shoot them in the head until they're dead. Different placements of their weak spots, different things that they respond to. I just think it's really engaging in how they built it. And I actually kind of want to play the sequel to see how they evolved on that, because there's a lot of potential in that.
I have bad news. It's the exact same thing. But also, 1 minute has passed.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Tis over. Look at that. Quick and breezy, just like you like it.
Just like you like it.
You know what I don't like? Grrr.
I thought you were going to say unions.
I don't know. I'm not going to say
I was like, how are you transitioning?
Yeah, I was curious.
I don't like when workers get abused in their workplace. Come on, man.
okay.
That's a fuck.
Okay.
What
That's
kind
right.
of fucking asshole am I? I interview all these. I'm just interviewing all these fucking games journalists, and at the end,
I
in their
fucking
backs,
hate
I'm
those
like,
bitches.
fuck them.
In the video you're playing as you're interviewing them, you just have a fade in of the one emoji where it's the guy doing like the finger motion. It's like, oh, crazy, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Fucking loopy head.
Yeah,
what the
loopy
fuck is
head.
this
Like,
guy
oh.
talking about?
Hey.
Listen to this chuckle fuck.
Obviously, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about games journalism, what actually happens behind the scenes at a lot of outlets, what is the reality of working in that sphere of the games industry. And let me tell you, I had a vague idea of what it was like, but I didn't know how bad it was. And we had some very candid interviews that we've done before for our research on the topic of the episode. And real quick, we're not going to name any names for the journalists we talked to. We're not going to name any outlets. All that I will say is that we talked to people that have both worked at major outlets and independent smaller outlets. And these are the experiences that they are living through as of right now.
Yeah, and they're pretty similar. Like each it's not like they're like having completely different experiences. It seems to be a very broad.
They're depressingly similar. Like pretty much every time I would talk to somebody, we would start and it would immediately just asking like, what is it like to work as a games journalist? And 90% was just, I love the work, but I fucking hate the industry.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about like some of the reasons why we're actually seeing an increase in unionization across the industry, because it's not like the IGN Creators Guild is some isolated event. Like that's the one that we're covering in the interview portion. But this has been a build up over the last few years. For years. Years
and years. I mean, people the thing is, if you follow gaming news a little bit and you've ever complained about an outlet or like an article that you've seen, you probably understand at least a little bit that there is something going on behind the scenes that isn't quite right or doesn't feel as good, but maybe you don't know exactly what it is. And understanding that is I feel like it's very important, because it can actually start change if we go into it and get people informed about why this is happening. And I'm going to be honest, pretty much 90% of the time, it's that big, beautiful word, management.
Well, I think that's actually probably a good place to start. Is what does a union do for games journalism?
Yes,
because a union with like game development makes a little bit more sense for people in terms of like, it's a very well-known thing. Game devs are overworked and they spend like a shitload of time on games that end up getting canceled and then they get screwed over, stuff of that nature. But I think the idea of a union in relation to people that write about games, it's like, okay, well, what would that do for them necessarily?
Well, it's pretty much the exact same as game developers. A lot of the times, like game developers have insane deadlines consistently. Games journalists have insane deadlines and a crazy amount of work. there's also a lot of them that are part-timers. I kind of expected a lot of the games, like the outlets that we looked at during our research, to have mostly full-time people, but for the most part, I more and more people have told me that it was like they hire a lot of part-timers, and unionization efforts would help the part-timers get benefits like a better severance packages, or if they get fired from one post, trying to see if they can, get them in another department at the same company. And that's been the major push for unionization, is basically...
Well, that's something we even talked about with Tyler in the interview, as you guys will see later, is like the after the IGN Creators Guild got recognized, there were some layoffs, and they were able to secure severance packages for the union members after the fact, which is something that they might not have been able to do without it.
They probably would not have been able to do it. The big thing with journalists getting unionization is that it keeps the writers safe. It keeps them in a position where they're able to keep writing about games.
Right. Just to like interject a moment is go for it. I don't know if it's like a semantics thing, but all the people that I know that are in games journalism, specifically for like writing reviews and doing guides and stuff like that, I don't even know if they would be considered part-time. I think they're technically would be like freelancers, which is even harder to get things like it's compensation, because it's like, oh, you can be you're not even terminated, we just don't come back to you for work. So they're always kind of on this precarious, like, oh, I hope I get, asked to work for this company.
I hope
again.
I get paid.
I hope I get paid. And,
that's actually something that at smaller independent outlets, it does happen that sometimes journalists will write an article and then they just never get paid. I've heard that happen at least twice from two different people, and that's a major problem with some of these small, because it's easy to just like put it up and never say anything about it. Like, what are you gonna do?
This is like a general contract work issue that people have, especially because it's kind of faith-based, right?
Yeah, no, it happened. It's happened to me in the past as well, and I don't do games journalism. I do fucking audio work, but it's just a reality of working freelance, which is why you kind of don't want to be in a position where you're freelance. You would rather be part-time or like proper hire at a company. You need like that safety is so important.
One thing that fucking blows talking about games journals or journalism in general with gamers, period, like anyone, is, and even people who are ex industry, I found some of them, like they seem to have like a lack of what is it called, consideration for the fact that like this is an industry that's been largely strapped by like the actual income in the pool. Why the hell does this guy suck at God of War, but he's reviewing God of War? I don't get it. And it's like, well, they assigned him a game on top of 5 fucking other games, and whatever, and he has to get it done, and maybe he's a freelancer, and there's no like in-house solidarity. There's no so like presumably this push towards unionization would create tighter and more consistent work out of like a smaller body with an actual voice.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, a lot of readers, you don't really care for the listicle or like an SEO optimized story, but that's what makes the company's money.
Right.
A lot of the times management are the ones that push clickbait, SEO optimized stories over a research heavy retrospective or an opinion piece. A lot of the times they're going to push stuff that's really corny at the reader. And it sucks because a lot of the times as well, the writers of the article, their names are right there. So a lot of people are going to go after the writer of the article and they get shit on for something that the management pushes.
Right.
Because let's be real, no games journalist got into games journalism to make a listicle. That's ridiculous. Who the fuck would want that? When I was talking with a lot of them, what I would ask them was like, what do you want to write about? What do you want to do? And a lot of the times they would say, well, I've seen a lot of lack of coverage for independent video games and genres that don't get a lot of coverage because they're not clickable. Visual novels, fighting games.
Niche topics.
They care so much about, but they can't. It's niche topics. It's interesting to talk about, but it's not going to get clicked on. And a lot of the times, that's what they want to do. They want to write stories about stuff that interests them. but that's not how the industry works, you know?
Yeah, like journos are not like fucking overlords. Like
No.
they're not they're not looking down like, ha, fucking gamers. I am the discourse master, and I will set the entire conversation. Like they're literally handed
it's
games
like-
to cover.
They're just a dude. They're just some fucking dude, bro.
And that's, I think, one of the exciting things that I think unions can bring to it, because it becomes more of a democratic situation within the workplace, because the workers have more power. And this is something that I kind of wanted to talk about and leads into a bit more, is that we've talked about unions kind of broadly previously as like a great thing, but like they're not a cure-all, and they're not like
No, they're not.
the end of the road, because like that's kind of just where the work begins.
Once you get recognized, it's the start.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the okay, this is a horror story from one person that I've talked to, and their management at their outlet got very hostile after the unionization efforts got recognized properly, and afterwards the work never stopped with working this whole union, because they were constantly worried that management was going to make them go into an emergency. Like the work starts at the union.
Yeah, it's the tools that you are given in order to change like your situation. Like it's how you can organize and actually get the changes that you want. And a lot of these changes, like I hope we'll see is actually more push for these articles, because it's not necessarily that an article or stories about these smaller independent games necessarily would get less clicks. It's just that they're untested in the same way that like a listicle are. Like this is a sure thing that's going to make a ton of money versus something that's niche and might miss.
Because listicles and crappy opinion pieces are emotionally based, so it's so easy to just maybe that's less. I don't know if that was a good point. I'm gonna get rid of that. That's stupid. That was really basic of a fucking.
Now we're editorializing. Can't let the people
Now
have
we're
an opinion.
yeah.
Oh
fucking
god! Now we have
cancel.
to keep it. That joke was.
There's like
good.
listeners of all fucking like walks, you know, presumably. Like not
Yeah.
everyone's on the same level, so it's always fine.
You talk. You saying I'm the lowest level
No,
of this
no,
fucking
you're
podcast?
uncharitably.
You're so there's a totem pole here, and you're like,
Comment below which one is the weakest link.
Okay,
who had the worst points?
I'm kidding.
We need to make a listicle now. Who is the best host?
Yeah, listen.
Top 10
God.
worst points
Rant.
of this episode.
power scale this shit in the comments.
Power scale my points.
Who could
Power scale my points.
beat me in the debate club? We're off track. Damn.
We were so
We're
off track.
so off track. I don't even know what we were talking about.
To circle back a little bit, because I had a point in mind when we were talking about, the idea of the games journalists as like a monolith, where it's like, they don't really care about games and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I feel it kind of touches on the same idea of like lazy game devs, where it's like, they got this game in this job in game development to be lazy. It's like, one, do you know how much work it can take to get
It's
into that
insane.
position, even at the lowest level? Like, it's not something like getting a job at McDonald's or Walmart or something like that, where it's like, you walked in with a resume and you were able to get a job.
You have to be tested before you get hired, dude.
You have to be tested.
You gotta-
Sometimes it's like knowing people and like being able to like prove that you can do consistent work. And on top of that, nobody goes into these jobs to be lazy per se, because they're not like they're getting paid a lot of money.
Nobody wants to do a bad job.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to do a bad job, but they're not paid well either. So
Yeah, something that somebody actually told me was everybody has had a problem with harassment online and stuff like that. And what they were thinking was like, why do I deserve this? It's not like I want to do a bad job. It's not like anybody wants to do a bad job or be malicious when they write an article. It's just a job.
yeah. I know people who have done written reviews for websites that have gotten like massive harassment campaigns for just putting out an opinion for saying like a game was like a 7.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even say it was bad. They're just like, it was like a 7. Like I liked it, but I wasn't, in love with it.
A 7 is a good rating. I don't understand.
It's because 7 is like now that's like bad. I feel like there's always this like weird inconsistency, and now we're getting into like discourse shit.
I mean, rating, yeah.
Yeah, it's rating stuff in that spectrum is stupid, but it always creates this dumb discourse where people will get mad if a game is rated anything lower than an 8. But then I feel those same people will also get mad at how, sites like IGN and the whatnot will also only use that spectrum where it's like nothing is ever below a 4 unless it's like doesn't even turn on.
Yes.
And then everything has to be above a 7 if it's really good. But then it's like, okay, but you're also making a environment, like you as in like the general public, make that hostility where I feel like they sometimes don't feel like they can give anything below an 8 without knowing they're going to get massive shit for it. Even though they're like, I like this game, it's good, it's got its faults, so roughly a 7.
I think there's a disconnect as well between people who read reviews and like the audience and the outlets that are putting them out. And there's people don't understand that there are different processes for reviews depending on the outlet. Like an IGN 7 is different from a PC Gamer 7, from a Polygon 7, etc., etc. Because they each have their own quirks and like differences. Like for one, how they assign games to people. Like maybe it's who wants it the most, or maybe it's just a random lottery, or maybe it's like this person does all of the like sports game reviews, this person does all of the racing game reviews, kind of thing. Or it could even be a difference in like, do we take the consensus of the like newsroom or whatever, or is this just this one person's opinion, or do we take like a temperature reading of like how generally people are feeling about this game?
That is actually really interesting, because that's one thing that it's very dependent on which outlet, because some outlets will do just straight up the journalist's opinion, and other ones will do a room read.
And the thing about that is that the end product looks indistinguishable from the others. So like when someone is like looking at a review, they go, oh, fucking this outlet gave this game this, that's bullshit, this game's a whatever they think, right? They have like a emotional reaction to it. Whereas like that might just be like either one guy's opinion, or it could be just like, oh, we're trying to say this is generally how this game is. Like, the rating scales are completely different depending on it. And there just isn't, and this is why fucking review scores are stupid. But like they have to do them because that's like a big thing in the industry.
Most people
like fucking
don't read the article anyway. They just skip to
they want a number, or they just read the last paragraph to get a general like, okay, give me the like truncated version of
exactly.
Let's be real. I'm not holier than thou, bro. I fucking do that shit all the time. Like sometimes I'm just like, I like this game, I want to go see what they think of it, and if they don't have the same opinion, I'm like, damn, they stupid or something.
I do the last paragraph thing when I'm just checking out of like, oh well, I like this game, and I'm like, I'm busy doing adult things. I'm not gonna read a whole article to get a sense if I might like a game. I'm gonna do a quick skim of the like last paragraph where they sum up all their points, and then it's like, okay, here's like the issues, here's the good points.
Yeah, that's why websites like OpenCritic are so popular, because OpenCritic literally just takes like they just assign an average number from
the aggregator.
Yeah, they just aggregate like the top critic average, how many critics, like percentage of critics recommend. They're popular because people use them. I use them.
I think people take it way too seriously, and it's kind of enforced a lot by, the fact that Metacritic scores were tied to bonuses for some of these video game companies, right? Which is fucking gross. And so people have gotten this idea that this is what matters, or they're coming into it with a like they've got their own biases about how this game should be reviewed, and not realizing that this shit's not objective.
Yeah,
like this is just some dude's opinion or room's opinion, etc.
It's literally all just fucking opinion pieces. Like it's ridiculous that it's tied to a bonus.
Yeah, I know.
If you got any answers like this, what is the general outlook on these people pivoting to video? Because if they're gonna team up and make a team, you'd expect them to have like a video element, like with whatever production there's. Because like it's an obvious like potential income source.
I think they should hire YouTubers.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, they should not. I mean, that would be the biggest wake up call for a lot of YouTubers. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe they should.
Well, yeah,
But no,
Hey, IGN, call me up.
that's right.
a lot of outlets are doing more and more video content. That's for sure. For the most part, the sentiment was that they got in the industry to write.
Yeah,
I think interesting about that is we had an earlier interview with Brendan Hesse where we actually kind of talked
Yes.
about this, and there have been pitches made internally to like the executives. It's just that they look at the cost and the cost benefit analysis, and they just don't see the because they're not media entrenched.
fair.
But I think that's a really important point to make.
A lot of the times too, if you put your ass out there and you're like, hey, maybe we should do more video stuff, they're gonna be like, yeah, we should. How about you do it in your overtime that we
Yeah.
won't pay? And it's like, oh, cool,
and
man.
like and I do commiserate with the people who got in for writing, being like, well, I write for this medium. I don't want to take it to another medium. I do get that. But you only need one face doing the video, so it's like,
I was about to say that's where Polygon actually was doing really well for quite a while. I don't know
yeah.
how they're doing now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a lot of their video talent ended up leaving, like Brian David Gilbert being the key example. But they had a lot of video only components that did really well. People really love stuff like Unraveled, and they were doing tabletop stuff and general reviews. But then they also had the core writing staff.
Polygon notably unionized as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because like Jason Schreier did a lot of writing for them. Still, it's like I wouldn't expect him to suddenly be an on-video talent because he is very much a writer.
We're also talking very broadly because we're not the people writing, and it's just like it's like word of mouth almost. A game of telephone.
Is this something that they could potentially pursue? Yeah.
I mean, probably in their own time, as long as we don't pay you and you do it in your own time. And then if it does well, maybe you will be paid for it.
Oh God.
So like any YouTuber.
right.
One thing that I do want to talk about is because I did ask, like, what do you think the solution is to all these problems, Like I asked every single one of them, and it was very depressing when every single person I talked to just told me that they had no hope that the games journalism sphere is going to get better. And that a lot of the times they said that the crash is going to happen. But like a positive is that since unionization is more and more common, it is going to, like I said earlier, keep the writers safe, and it's going to make the games journalism crash dampened. It's a really depressing way to see it, but the smaller publications and amateur journalism are going to live on and pave the way if the crash happens or whenever it happens.
It's the same as the game industry itself, where a lot of the problems are so deep rooted that
it's rooted.
Like I've seen enough things that are like expecting like the games industry, big AAA is crashing fast. Give it like 5 years, somewhere around there. But what will survive?
It always takes
smaller
multiple years.
Indie stuff, because the problems are so deep rooted and systemic that the things need to be done to fix it cannot happen fast enough to stop it. It's like the train is already moving. There's no catching it at this point. So it's a matter of just like, I guess you just got to wait for what happens. And then, the indie scene and the, AA sphere will probably, rise from the ashes and, hopefully will stabilize from there.
I just see a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Like I think that the unionization is something to be excited about. It is important to like celebrate these things. Like you're looking at the Bethesda unionization, which literally happened like
that's
over the
big
weekend.
Fucking news, dude.
Wall to
Huge
wall,
news.
like massive. I just hope that isn't the end of what we hear about these things. Like I hope that because like at the end of the day, like the people who make the games, the people who do the media, they have to recognize that they are putting themselves, they need to put themselves into the position of power, and that's what unionization can do. And they need to start, like, there needs to be work done in, whether it be strikes and all that stuff to actually get the results that they're after. And I really hope that that's what we start seeing in the coming years, and that it does dampen, if there is an inevitable crash, that it's dampened by the efforts made today to help those in the future.
Yeah.
Before we do move on, I did want to, Billy, you brought this to my attention. I wanted to shout out a website called Critical Distance.
It's so cool. I love it.
This is like, if you're looking for good writing about video games, this is a website dedicated to finding and collecting, I guess, like their Pokemon.
It's a curator.
It's a curator for a bunch of stuff. So, like, the whole idea that, there's no good writing in video game. It's like, well, that's, you need to seek it out.
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is if you actually think that, and you're not just saying it to say it.
Exactly.
Basically, Critical Distance just curates a bunch of stuff. Like, let's say right now it's July 20. They wrote yesterday, July 21st, a new blog post, and they basically go through a bunch of like interesting stuff that they found that they think would be great reads for people interested in reading about games, like game retrospectives, giant big opinion pieces that are that they found interesting and thought provoking. It's a great little website if you wanna find like interesting stuff. It's pretty cool.
And if you're not much of a reading person, they also got collections, roundup of interesting video essays. Looks good. They're even like sectioned off into like what types they are. So stuff that's like,
oh, they do.
Stuff that's more about like the development.
I haven't seen any Foxcade or K-Bash on there.
I was gonna say, they don't have my buddy K-Bash on here. It sounds like they're kind of hacked.
Well, I don't really do the aesthetic. My show is not about the aesthetics of intelligence, so it will not be there, but that's okay.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, but that's how you know you're a real one, though, and that's how you know they're not. The common man is not being represented.
Where's the This Week in Gaming podcast set, you fuck? Paul?
Oh no.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the interview section.
Oh, apparently it's because you have to pitch it.
Damn. Okay, I'm gonna pitch.
No, I thought they just. I thought they. I mean, I could be wrong.
I
Anyway.
think you can pitch. I think there is like the option to pitch, but I'm looking at a lot of.
Oh no,
names that
where to
don't
pitch? No. Where to pitch is for writers if they want to pitch to a place. This is like a collation of.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really, really cool, actually. It's like if you want to write about video games and you want to get published, here's a bunch of places where you can pitch to, like, directly.
Damn.
Which is also really cool. That is a really awesome source to be like, hey, do you like writing?
Yeah.
Here's places to send your stuff.
Yeah.
to.
We're gonna cut that into the episode, so it's like we talked about it.
Let's go.
Awesome. Welcome to the interview portion for Press Start Turbo. Today we're talking with Tyler. He is a social media producer working at IGN and is also a member of the IGN Creators Guild, which recently was able to unionize with the news guild CWA, as well as being voluntarily recognized by IGN's parent company, Ziff Davis. Please welcome to the show, Tyler.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Doing good.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. Pleasure. We're going to be talking mostly about, or the reason why we've got you on today is to talk about the IGN's Creators Guild, which I think is one of the more exciting things to happen recently, coming from the video game news industry. There's been a lot of other stuff that isn't quite as exciting, but it's just as important to talk about. But
yeah. We need to talk about the positives sometimes, though. Good Lord.
Before we jump into that, I'd just like a little bit of background on you, Tyler. Like, what was your pathway into this industry, and how did you get your start at IGN?
Yeah, well, it comes back to college and like being a fan of IGN, because I actually started college as a music education major. I had been a percussionist all my life and really just wanted to be a music teacher, like high school, marching band, all that. And as I kind of realized that my colleagues at college were more into classical music than I was, like I saw a passion in them that wasn't in me, and I was like, I don't want to be a bad music teacher, right? I don't want to give that to kids. So I was trying to figure out like, what do I do? Like, where do I go? How do I figure out what I am passionate about and what I do want to do? And at the same time, I had been really getting into IGN podcasts, Podcast Beyond, Podcast Unlocked, Game Scoop, all that stuff. And Kind of Funny Games had just kind of launched. And I was like, this is so cool that these guys get to essentially podcast and create content and talk about video games for their job. And I was like, I want to do that. My college didn't have a journalism degree, so the closest thing I did that they did have was broadcasting. So I was a broadcasting major, and I started writing news for hardcoregamer.com and some other sites, just trying to get into that space. And about a year or so after I graduated college, I stumbled upon an IGN listing for a freelance position on their social media team. Part-time, just in the mornings, because I was East Coast, so I could kind of pick up the morning shift and kind of help the transition from the UK team as they get off work and the West Coast team gets on work. I stayed there for a long time, just helping out in the mornings and doing other things on the side, but eventually I got hired full-time. And now I'm here.
Sweet.
I wonder what the pipeline is for like people with music degrees going into like games, because that's me.
Yeah.
It's literally same. Like almost verbatim same. That's really weird.
Yeah, we are not the first ones to do it. I've heard stories of people doing the exact same thing. So
What's up with that?
I don't know.
It's so weird. All right.
And how long after you started at the full-time position did you start hearing about where did the idea of like forming a union come from? Like how long has this been brewing for, or was it like recent events have kind of like acted as a catalyst for this kind of thing?
So recent events definitely have like bolstered our like participation and stuff like that. But the unionization effort started 2 years ago by a few key members, and for a while it was just them meeting every week and just like trying to figure out how to get in touch with unions and like the CWA, how to do it essentially. And then I joined kind of the effort about a year into it. So I've been helping out for about a year. Yeah, so it's been a long time coming, and back then it was just, it was just about like what unions could do for them and what they've had seen from union shops in the past. And IGN's been around a long time, and games media has been around for a long time, but like none of it is unionized, and like a lot of the rest of the like entertainment space is. So they were just kind of seeing what that would look like in the gaming space, and it kind of snowballed kind of slowly. I mean, 2 years is a long time to do that, to do that work.
Yeah.
But I think, recent events like 2023 was just an insane time for the games industry, both on the like industry side and the media side. So that helped for sure. People were, rightfully kind of scared. Like, we're watching all of this stuff and reporting on all this stuff, and like this could happen to us. And so that really helped kick people into gear a little bit, and we got there, and it felt really good when we did.
You brought up 2023. Do you feel like the contrast between that year consisting of a lot of huge union wins in other sectors, like the UWA, for instance, or even we're looking at the SAG-AFTRA strikes and those ones. Do you think that helped to compel people to understand what actually a union could? Because like I feel like for a lot of people, it's very nebulous about what actually a union does and what a union is capable of. So do you feel like having these events happen and then having them actually be like relatively well reported on compared to like previous union efforts, do you think that like helped like drive people to like realize like, oh, this can actually like help me in my workplace?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like watching that happen, and like I said, like we're reporting on these things happening, and like it's showing us and hopefully everyone, what unions can do and what they can do for you. So yeah, that was really cool to see. And it helped the morale, I guess, of like our union, even pre voluntary recognition. Like it helped us feel like all this work, because it was a lot of work to and doing it in our off time. It was draining a lot of the time. But when we saw things like the SAG-AFTRA strike and it actually working, we were like, okay, this is worth it, because if we ever need to do something like that or need to protect ourselves, we can. So yeah, it definitely helped kick people into gear.
That process of actually forming the union and getting it to be voluntarily recognized by the parent company, what was that like? And do you think that's something that could be repeated at other outlets as well? Like you were talking about, like a lot of the work that you guys had to do, especially off hours and on your own time. What was some of that stuff that you guys had to do?
It's a lot of like just back channeling, we call it. It's talking to people, testing the waters, seeing how they feel about unionization, because you do have to like keep it a secret. Like it is kind of a delicate thing when you haven't announced yet. So it's delicate, and you have to kind of treat it that way. When we got recognized, it's kind of weird how like working with the company is like, it's very, you say something or like we announced we're unionizing, that big day where we went public and said we're unionizing, and then we just kind of have to wait, and the company's not going to respond immediately. They have to do a lot of, they're going to have their own meetings. It's a surprise to them because we did a good job of like keeping this secret, so they have to figure out what's going on their end and then come back to us. It was almost like everybody, we just gotta wait this out, we just gotta see what they're gonna say. And it was, it wasn't like tense or anything, but
Okay.
It was just like you're kind of you're going through all the potentials in your head, during that, because it was like, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks we had to wait for them to say anything. And a lot of it was just like, during those weeks was just like talking to our bosses who aren't part of the union, just kind of like a funny little like elephant in the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
but it wasn't like tense at all. It was just like,
Okay.
I guess awkward a little bit, because it's just like, you guys gonna say anything? And eventually they did, and it was a good outcome. So and we were kind of, what you do is you prepare for the worst but hope for the best in these situations. The Ziff Davis Creators Guild is our kind of sister union, and they have been around for a little while now, and they got voluntarily recognized as well. So we were pretty hopeful, like they've done it before, why wouldn't they do it again? And they did. So for other outlets, we're very hopeful that this is kind of a light of a fire kind of moment for the games industry. IGN is like probably the biggest of the games industry outlets.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
So we're very hopeful that this is kind of like inspiring for people.
Yeah.
You talked a bit about the process being a lot of back channeling. Was that talking to other unions or people who have unionized and then like figuring out like, okay, what did you guys do? How can we replicate that here?
Yeah, we talked a lot with the members of the Ziff Davis Creators Guild, because they had already done it, and they had already done it at Ziff Davis. So they knew a lot about like what the process would look like for us, and what we should do in certain situations, and at different points throughout this whole thing. So
and what was the reception like from the team, like at IGN? Because I believe I read it was like 87% of the company, or IGN, signed union cards, I believe.
Yeah. So that's of the members who are like eligible to be in the union anyway, because like at a certain point, you're too high up in the company to be part of the union. But yeah, of the people who are allowed to be in the union, 87% were like, really gung-ho. That's around 70 people out of like whatever that math is, 87%. But we had a lot of like, you know, people can be pretty wary of unions and just back channeling because they're worried, you know, they've heard stories, you know, union busting, you know, looking at like even recently like with Starbucks and all that, like it's not a good look for these companies when they do that sort of stuff, but it happens still. So we go through this process of inoculation, which is a big term for just like making sure people know like you're protected throughout this. So like you do not have to worry about that kind of stuff. And if you think this union is something that you would want to be a part of, despite your worries about union busting or retaliation from the company, like if you think this is a good thing, you can be a part of it and you can help us out without that worry. It takes time, and that's, you know, part of the reason why it takes as long as it does, but because you gotta get to that 80% is kind of the goal. If it goes to a vote, if you're not voluntarily recognized, you then have to go to a vote with the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board. And if you get 51%, it's like a simple majority, then you get the union anyway, even if your company doesn't want to voluntarily recognize you. So you only need 51%, but like the goal of that kind of inoculation period is to get 80, so that, you know, even if this is going to go to a vote, you're good. Like you're going to get the vote.
Yeah.
I'm actually really glad you brought up Starbucks, because that was and has been a recent case of where an employer didn't act in good faith with the people trying to unionize. And I feel like it's kind of, with the NLRB being more proactive than it has been in previous years in the States, and actually like dealing with the Starbucks and that whole procedure being very public and very bad optics for Starbucks. Do you feel like that also like helped, especially like with the people who are trying to unionize, feel like a little bit more protected? Like, okay, like if they do try and, you know, screw us over, there is actually like some protection for us, and there are like gonna be consequences.
Yeah, we have like someone from the CWA, or the Pacific Media Workers Guild specifically, who is kind of our like liaison, and she's been like our Sherpa throughout this whole process, and she's been really great at making us aware of those protections. Like I said, all of 2023 was so, you know, it was chock full of unionization efforts and strikes and Starbucks nonsense. Like all of that stuff really bolsters like your collective like mindset, and that was really, really helpful. It's really cool. Like that was one of the the only good things to come out of 2023, it seemed. But yeah, I hope that it continues, you know, because this has been really good.
Now that you are unionized, what are some of like, I mean, obviously I don't want you to like divulge like union strategy. That would be bad.
Yeah.
But like, what are some of the goals and things that people have been like asking, like, hey, we feel like this isn't quite right, or like, oh, I really wish like when I came into work it was like this, etc. Like, what are some of the things that the union's like, all right, these are going to be like our main points that we're going to like be driving on?
Yeah, that's been a big part of like what we've been talking about throughout this whole process, is like anyone and everyone, let us know, because I've been part of the organizing committee, which is kind of the group of 10 or so people who have been kind of headlining this whole thing. We're always asking, like, if you ever have like something that, you know, you think, oh, that would be, I wonder if that's something the union could protect me from or help me out with, let us know, and we'll take it to our representative and see what that might look like when we finally do get our contract. The biggest one is obviously layoffs. 2023, big unionization efforts, but also insane when it came to layoffs, just like unprecedented amounts. And 2024 has like, I think, already surpassed that number in the first like couple months.
I feel like that's all we've been talking about ever since we started doing this show a bit.
Yeah.
It's
like
it's just every week.
Yeah, every time we come into the show, it's we always have some other news story we want to cover, and then just like there's another 500 people who just lost their job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's always ridiculous, like just an absolutely insane number as well. It can never be like
Right.
It has to be crazy or nothing, you know.
So yeah, that's obviously like top priority. Overwork, I guess, overtime, stuff like that are always like big
Yeah.
when we talk about these things. But, you know, there's a lot that the union can do for us. And I'm excited to, once we start actually getting into bargaining and negotiating for our initial contract, excited to see what, you know, that can produce.
And just for people who don't understand, because like I feel like most people get the gist of what a union is, but they might not
Yeah.
know the minutiae of like, for instance, what is bargaining and what is a collective agreement, and what does this differ from, like, you know, the contract that I'm just signing with my whoever, my employer.
Because for a lot of people, union is good, but what exactly does a union do for me? And I feel like that might be a big part of why people are sometimes worried about going and actually, you know, joining unionization efforts, because it is still like the job safety, job risk is kind of how people see it. So just explaining what exactly a union does for people, I think can really help with it can just help people understand better why unions are good and not just be like, union good.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like when you're in a non-union job, everyone is essentially bargaining on their own for their own salaries and paid time. You know, a lot of that usually comes, oh, this is what this company does. We get 2 weeks off, you know, a year or whatever it is. And you can agree to that or not, right? That's part of your kind of negotiating. There's not a lot of negotiating that actually happens, but you can just say yes or no, essentially. But it's up to the individual. Same with salary and same with, you know, everything else that comes with an individual contract. And that can lead to, you know, women getting paid less, people of color getting paid less because they don't have the power to negotiate or say no, like, you know, this job isn't paying me enough, so I'm going to turn it down and find another one. Like, sometimes that's not an option for people. You know, they have to take this job, so they're going to take the money that they're offering. With a union, you can, as a collective, say, nah, this is all of us. You need us to do this work, to make this money. So you got to pay us, you know, right, and equally and equitably, and we can set things up that protect us from layoffs. You know, severance is a big thing that can protect you from layoffs, making it essentially expensive for the company to lay you off, because you as a collective have said, no, this is what our severance is going to be. And so it just gives you more power to get what you need to make a living wage and to kind of prosper in an industry that is kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
I was gonna just add on, like, I feel like, I mean, this is just like personal opinion. I don't have any any actual knowledge, but I feel like a lot of the reasons why some of these industries, I mean, aside from like the corporate greed element of it, but the reason why they are like having so many issues is because, in my opinion, they're not unionized. Because what unionization actually brings in is a lot of the perspective from the workers and the people who are actually doing the job, getting to have a say in how the job is done, which is actually really important when you think about it. Because like, especially like if you're looking at other industries like airplane manufacturing, for instance, just to bring up a relevant one, I feel like the people who are actually like making these things probably know more about the best ways to make them than the, you know, executive C-suite, who are the ones who are deciding the contracts.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like adversarial either. Like of course the management people don't know the minutia of, you know, what happens down in the warehouses or the factories. Like, of course they don't. They have so much else going on, and that's not necessarily their fault. It's just like if you allow the workers a seat at the table, it's better for everyone, because you do get that perspective then, and you can make better managerial decisions. So yeah, I think that's a great example of like how this can make it better, not only for union workers, but for the non-union side of things as well.
Yeah, I mean, specifically as well with video game journalism, I think a lot of people, especially a lot of like consumers of video game journalism or gamers or whatever, have issues with how things are happening in the video game like journalism industry, and they'll like make it very apparent on Twitter or wherever. But like a lot of their issues are the same ones that these like video game journalists have with the industry. It's just they don't have a way to voice their dissent or any way to change it. At least my hope with unionization, and I feel like I assume you probably feel the same way, is that that can actually like change, and the people who are making this stuff actually get to have a say in how it's made and what is being made.
Yeah, that is a big part of it, especially for the journalism side of it. You know, like journalistic integrity, like making sure we're being ethical and all that stuff, that can also be helped by being a union shop. Like we have a seat at the table now, which means we have a say in how things go without having to, wait years and, rise through the ranks. And then you get a say as a manager. No, we get a say now, because we are this collective that has said, that we kind of demand a seat at the table. And they're like, okay.
How do you feel solidarity with the other unions, especially like if there are going to be more? Do you feel like that is something that you guys are aiming for to, like, I guess, enshrine the position that you guys have, and maybe just as well, just give a brief description of what actually like worker solidarity means in like the context of unions as well?
Yeah, it's like, I guess I've never looked up like the actual definition of solidarity, but like off the cuff, I would say it's a type of loyalty, but it's a type of loyalty that is very it's not like a higher lower power kind of thing. It's like we're all here on the same level, and we're loyal to one another. And we're trying to do what's best for one another, including ourselves, but just as well for everyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've actually on a few of our social media posts, and we actually did a Twitch stream with the CWA. We're very clear to say, like, if anyone wants to reach out and ask us stuff like you guys are now, like, how did you do this? What do I need to do to start a union at my, outlet or whatever it is? We're very open to that. So solidarity doesn't just mean IGN or Ziff Davis. It means everyone in the gaming industry. And not even on the media side. Like if you're in the world of making games, like, and you feel like you could benefit from a union, I think everyone could benefit from a union. But if you specifically think you could benefit from a union, please reach out.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll put that in the description for anyone who's
I was just gonna say, yeah.
There's been like recent examples that I feel like I can point to with the well, we're talking about the SAG-AFTRA strikes. I remember distinctly Teamsters, which is another union, were refusing to cross picket lines, which means that they aren't going to go onto sets or work locations where there is a strike going on. And that becomes like this thing where instead of, it's your individual union, it's like, David versus Goliath kind of like environment, you're actually like grouping up with people who might not even be in the same industry with you to fight for the same thing, which is better working conditions and better rights for people in these positions. And I think that's like one of the strongest elements of a union, is just that, especially just like that lens shift of like viewing things rather than just like me versus this person. It's us.
Yeah.
It's everybody looking out for each other and making sure that everybody's on equal footing.
Yeah, I like your example of it being like a lens shift. Like it doesn't have to be this way kind of thing. We've set up this hierarchical structure, and it's been ingrained in all of especially America, but all of the world, this kind of power structure at companies, and it doesn't have to be this way. So
No.
yeah, I think that's a big shift that I think happened to a lot of people in 2023, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I also think it's very, very exciting. It's one of the reasons why we've had you on. Have there been any issues since you guys have unionized? Has there been any kind of has there been a shift in the way management has treated you, or has it been relatively smooth sailing?
So in the day-to-day, no. I mean, nothing much has changed. We're also not fully on board yet, just because we don't have our contract yet.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in this limbo period. It's actually a thing. It's called the status quo period, where the company is kind of mandated to keep everything the same. You can't make big sweeping changes to merit increases or any procedures that you would do at the beginning of a year or at the end of a year. Kind of those kinds of things all have to go the way, go as normal, so that companies can't change things in this interim period to kind of make things harder for the union workers. So we haven't experienced any of that. We did have some layoffs. It was three union members and one non-union member. They got laid off, and so we did have to kind of go into emergency negotiations over the layoffs. We were hoping to kind of help them shift into new positions, because IGN does have, I think, 6 or 7 open positions right now that I think we've just filled, actually. So we wanted to just kind of shift those 3 because we were only able to help the 3 union members. We wanted to shift them into those open roles that were kind of whichever one's aligned the most with their previous roles, and have no break in employment kind of thing, kind of make it easy and swift. We weren't able to get that. We weren't able to find common ground there with the company. So we did get them better severance than they would have if they were kind of on their own. So we were glad that we could get them that at least. But yeah, it was a lot, and it kind of threw the whole timeline off, because usually when you unionize, there's these milestones, and our timeline is kind of a little screwed up now, but we're past that now, so we're kind of getting back on track.
And what is the next step for you guys? What is the next thing that you guys are working on?
So there are a number of employees who are kind of in a weird space in the family tree. What is it called? The
corporate structure? Or
yeah, the corporate structure. So it's are they managers because they have direct reports, but do they have managerial power? That's a big thing, is what powers do they actually have? Can they fire someone? Or do they have to take it, to their boss? Those kinds of things we have to figure out. It's to figure out who's in the union and who's not. And there's this small group that are kind of in this in-between state. And so the next step is to negotiate with the company over who's in and who's out. That'll be the next thing. And that's kind of something you do before you get to your first contract.
Gotcha. Have you been talking with your coworkers about what they want to see in that first contract and some of the things that you guys are going to be pushing for? Has that been a constant thing?
Yeah, that's been kind of over the 2 years, off and on, talking about what would you want to see in the contract? What would you want to, and talking to different departments, the video team and the editorial team and the social team all have very different, workflows and procedures and things. So we don't necessarily know what roadblocks are in the way for different departments. So it's a lot of communication, figuring out what could be improved for different groups of people, but then what could be improved for all of us, and kind of figuring out that stuff. I think that a big chunk of that discussion will happen after we get the people who are kind of in that in-between state. Once we get them in, hopefully, or once they kind of have to move out of the union, once that's kind of settled, I think that's when we'll start really getting into like, what do we want here, and what's going to be best for everyone.
Before we let you go, Tyler, is there anything else you wanted to say or shout out or something we didn't get to?
Yeah, so I think the big thing would be our email address. I did find it. It is igncreatorsguild@gmail.com. So if anyone feels compelled to reach out to us and ask us questions about how to unionize, or where to go or who to contact, we are more than happy to help, because we've seen already what this can do for us, and we hope that it kind of keeps spreading. Like I said, 2023 was really cool to see, and I hope that 2024 sees even more of that.
Yeah, sweet. All right, thanks again, Tyler, for coming on. This has been great. Again, anyone just who wants to get involved with union action and doesn't know how, IGN Creators Guild, they can help you figure out what you guys need to do next, especially if you're in the games journalism industry. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate people reaching out and having these talks with us. So.
Gather around, crackers. It's time to sit down at the Hound Pits pub and talk about Dishonored, 2012's Dishonored by Arcane Studios.
Thanks to the Patreon for picking this game for us. Smile.
Dishonored, 12 years later.
12
Oh
years
god, it has been
12 years? Are you serious? Oh my god, I didn't even think about
12
that.
years.
Jesus Christ.
That's like different than if it were 7. It's 12, so that's more.
Yeah, exactly.
one thing that I actually wrote in my notes is just 12 years. Holy shit, it's holding up
Dude.
well.
Yeah, true.
Fine wine this game is.
Yeah, to say this now, who here has played this for the first time like myself? Am I the only one?
No. Wait, it was your first time?
It's my first time. That's why
Oh.
I am coming at this from someone who this is their first time playing this game in 2024.
Pop that Dishonored cherry, bro.
That's a really interesting perspective.
That is a crazy. I didn't know.
Everyone's finished the game at least once.
Yeah.
So let's just go through what everybody's playthroughs were like in the past. I've done a full stealth playthrough once, and then for this one, I decided to do high chaos because I did not want to do the fucking F5, F6 constantly because that's annoying as shit. Also, I think I preferred high chaos way more.
Oh yeah, dude,
It's very goofy.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's so satisfying.
When I was 13, when this game came out, I did both a non-lethal full stealth playthrough and a high chaos back in the day. I played the shit out of this game. I loved it. And then just coming back, I just messed around in the first few levels just to remember how the game feels and see if it still felt the same, and it does.
Yeah, that's what I did as well. I did want to do the DLC, but then I thought about it and I was like, I'll because I don't want to rush through the game just for Press Start Turbo because it's actually enjoyable and I want to fucking play them at my own pace, you know? So I haven't played the DLCs or the sequel or the squeakquel.
Right.
What's the other one called?
Death of the
the
Outsider.
Yeah.
Okay. I've played the first game a fuck ton of times, both Chaos and No Chaos and whatever the fuck. I played the second one twice, Corvo and Emily, Ghost and High Chaos for those two in like that order, and then Death of the Outsider once.
Damn, we got an expert on our hands.
I love Dishonored.
I also love Dishonored. I've also played the other games. I did not do 2 playthroughs of Dishonored 2 though, I think. I
yeah,
did
fair.
one. How are we feeling about how are we feeling?
Well, I can add my thoughts onto that. I played a low chaos, like exclusively stealth for my first playthrough of Dishonored 1.
Yeah.
The best thing I can say about this game is by the end of it, not only was I like, oh, I want to get Dishonored 2. It helped that it was on sale on Humble Bundle for like $5 at the time, but still. But also, as soon as I finished it and I was downloading 2, I was like, I want to see what a Chaos run looks like. So I started it. I never finished it because I was like
so
yesterday or the day before. But I was like, I really want to see what the difference of this game is when you are approaching it on a different axis, because this game has so much potential for replayability and challenge runs and things of that nature.
It
'cause of
does.
how
God.
it's designed. and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, fun fact: the first video I saw of yours, K-Bash, was your Dishonored video.
I'm so sorry. That video is so stank and old.
4 years,
Like-
it's 4
like-
years old, 5 years old.
I-
You know, it's
right.
it's how it is.
Exactly. I recently reacted to it on my Patreon, and I disagreed with some stuff. I agree with others. It's fine, but
You reacted on it on your last video on Sticks.
right? Yeah, I had to comment
So
on
it's
it.
like yeah, I know.
Because Sticks gave me more appreciation for the stealth genre as a whole, and I retroactively applied it to Dishonored because I've historically loved High Chaos more.
Do you still like High Chaos more? Because I'm the opposite. I
still do.
love stealth. I love stealth games.
Yeah.
And for me, Dishonored scratches that itch. I want to talk about the tool set you have in Dishonored and how genius a lot of the
so well
It
designed.
can, every tool feels like it has a use in stealth and in fucking
not
high
all of
chaos.
them.
Not all of
most
them, but most of them. Actually,
Yes,
like
most
this
of
is
them.
this is going ahead a little bit. I saw
Okay,
one
maybe
of the,
not chaos. I meant stealth. Sorry.
right.
I saw one of the comments you posted on the Twitter for
Yes.
Oh, if you have any questions, Big Box was saying the game is peak. Love the level design, art style, and gameplay. How would you personally change the gameplay? And if you could create a new power for the game or hypothetical Dishonored 3, what would it be? I really had to think about it
wouldn't.
because I cannot think of a new power set that wouldn't either break the game or just not fit into it. Like every power, you have just so many options in any given scenario. You never feel like, oh, I'm only forced into one avenue and there's only one correct way to play it. But also, you just never feel underpowered. And in fact, a lot of the time, I'm like, oh, I have too many.
You feel really powerful.
Hey, like
Yeah.
when you're fully leveled up by the end, it's like, oh, I can fucking solve every problem. The one power
Yeah.
I did think of,
Yeah.
and it's mostly a convenience thing more than like it would change the game, is I would like a power that let you attract guards' attentions, like when you throw the glass. Because sometimes you're in situations where you don't have that accessible, or it's fucking like upstairs. I'm not going to go upstairs to get glass to bring it down and throw it. I would like a power where you can just cause a sound to appear at a specific zone. And then an upgraded form would be like, oh, without even like making a sound, you can just pull a guard's attention to a specific area, like psychically almost. That's the only thing.
I see.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I was like, try hitting your sword against the middle next to you. They'll come over.
But a lot of the time,
They love-
I want sound
Yeah, I know what
in
you
an
mean.
area. I want to
you
like
could
pull
just
them.
blink.
Yeah, true.
You could just blink somewhere, do the noise, and blink out.
Yeah, and that's again that like circles back around to what I was saying is like it's so well designed that you always have options. I never felt like, oh, I wish I could do this.
This game is so insanely impressive in every fucking way, and it's even more impressive when you think about the fact that it's a new IP and they did almost everything perfectly on the
Yeah.
first go.
Yeah.
It's like I've never played a game that is so tight. Every game mechanic goes into another game mechanic, goes into another game mechanic, and everything is just it's so impressive. Everything about this game is insane. As close to perfect as I can think.
I found going back into it that it was really it's insane how many different playstyles they've accommodated and for the different the different abilities, because like some of them you look at them and you're like how often is this going to be useful, and then it's every fucking mission. If you go somewhere, you'll find the whatever, the blast power, the where it pushes people
Whirlwind,
back.
yeah.
Like all it does on the level 1 is just push them back a little bit, and you're like, this is where's this useful? But there's so many scenarios where it's like
you can break like fucking walls with it,
or like
eventually.
reflect rockets coming at you and shit.
Yep, reflect
Yeah.
rockets.
Oh, I didn't know
there's
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
there's
It's
a
so
mission
cool.
where you're climbing a tower, and like so many of the guards are just standing on these wooden bits that if you just blast it, they're just gonna fall down to the
Yeah.
death. It's excellent. But that's something that you might not have unlocked the power, and then you have to tackle the scenario in a completely different way. It's so cool.
So, like, I mean, a great point of comparison is the Thorf game, like the fourth Thief game, because, like, that game is trying to do... Yeah, sorry, I always call it that to be an asshole. But like,
Because you're talking about the reboot, right?
yeah, the reboot. Because that game tries to do this shit where it's like, you can go down here or you can go up here. And it's like, well, but I could just play Dishonored where I can go like every fucking direction and kill
Yes.
or just never touch. And it's like, I'm just going to play Dishonored, honestly.
Yeah, you're only giving me options A and B and acting like it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
20 options. Whereas Dishonored, it's like, oh, you have so many fucking ways you can approach this. Like one of my, I don't want to quite call it like a criticism. It's more like a personal issue when playing it, is I always had this feeling where there's so many systems that I just didn't fully grasp because there's so much under the hood
Oh, fair.
of like how all the guards like move and what they respond to, and you know, to what degree do they respond to.
Yeah.
And I was always like, oh man, I wish, like, I would love to hear like developers explain all these nuanced systems and how they interlock.
Yeah, like why I've always struggled with the stealth. Not that I'm against the stealth now, because I'm more of less of an ape brain. But back in the day, it was just like I felt like I didn't understand what the fuck, like that notified this or that guy, or they saw me from halfway across the level, but it was dark as shit. But mind you, that's like
Yeah, I ran into the same thing.
yeah, mind you, a bunch of people told me I was wrong about that. Maybe I was just playing bad when I did it back then and showed it for a video. Regardless, High Chaos saved my life anyway, so it didn't matter. I could just like, like you want to ooga booga, go ahead, just bonk them.
You know, it's in the game for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the magic of this game. And we've literally only talked about gameplay. We haven't gotten into the fact that this game is so timeless because of its fucking like art design.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
dude, the
Or
aesthetic.
the fact that the
holy
story is actually fucking weird, like way more interesting than it at first shows you. Like when it starts showing its hand, like with all the fucking plot points and everything, and this isn't a generic revenge story. This has like shit going on, you know? It's such an impressive game on so many feats, but the thing that I think makes this fucking series, I say that, this game, because I haven't played the rest of the series, but this game so special is the level design. The amount of choices you have at any moment, and the amount of things that, like, in one level, you have, like, so many little quests that you can do for these absolute animal freakazoids. Yeah. These fucking weirdos that just give you tasks to do, your brain goes off because you're like, oh, while I'm over here, I can do this, this, and that. And then you start planning your route through the city to get as much done as you like possible. The flow of everything is so natural, and it feels so like it never feels like the game is just throwing you into one direction and
You're
being
never
like,
getting funneled to go in a specific way.
yeah, it feels like you're doing these decisions.
Yeah.
Like nobody's telling you to do this. You're doing it because you want to.
Yeah.
Because the level design is so fucking perfect.
It's very inviting. You can do a lot of shit, so you're like incentivized to just go everywhere.
It is inviting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's so many collectibles, and it's not collectibles that are just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
fucking
they're not junk. They changed your game.
new piece of lore. It's like they change how you play the game. Like those runes, like the money can get scarce.
Yeah.
Also, like, the levels themselves are so distinct and memorable in not only in just like the way they look, but also in the like distinct mechanics that they have and the way that you interact with them. Like one of my favorite ones from the first game is the masquerade ball manor,
Yeah.
which I think is a lot of people's
Yes.
favorite one.
Oh, is it
I
Lady
had so much fun
Boyle's
in that.
party?
Lady Boyle.
Yes.
That one's great.
Figure out which one is her, and then you have to like figure out, okay, how do I, if you're doing the non-lethal route, it's like, okay, how do I smuggle her out of this party?
Yep.
By going into the basement and like getting her to the boat. And it's like, how do you maneuver this character to be in that position? So you're not like, oh, I'm just going to carry this
Yeah.
unconscious body through this party.
Yeah, but like, if you're High Chaos, you just go in there and murder everybody. It's awesome. Like, it's like-
Or that. Yeah.
Nothing stops you from being a psychopath,
No.
dude. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
yeah,
And then you
great.
get rats, bro. It's awesome.
Do you know, that's like, I know people playing stealth always get annoyed about like how much save scumming is like inherent with stealth games. I mean, one, get good. Two, like every time that I fuck up in stealth, I murder the person that sees me before I reload my save, and it always makes me feel that much a little bit better. I'm like, I got him.
I could have killed this guy the entire time, but I didn't because I'm a good person, but I could have.
Exactly, but I could have.
Even then, like, I think the best way to experience this game is just to go in, like, if you, like, maybe try to go stealth, and if something goes wrong, the game, like,
roll
is
with it.
so accommodating.
Yeah.
Go with it. That creates stories, and this game is all about your playthrough being your own, and, like, man, talking about your experience in this game with other people, it's so satisfying. It's so fun. This game's fucking awesome, man.
Like one personal like anecdote for me trying to play like a non-lethal version. There was a couple where like just someone died somehow that I didn't know how, and I was like, fuck it, we're rolling with it. Like, I'm not that invested in the ending being like 0 kills. I just want to maintain no kills in my actual playthrough. But there's the moment in or you're climbing up the tower. You're trying to go up the tower. And one of the side missions is to find the torturer and kill them.
Yeah.
There's no unlethal option. So it's like, okay, well, if you're playing a non-lethal playthrough, how do you do that? And there's mechanics in the game where it's like, oh, you can kill them by like tipping something over indirectly. So how I did it was I knocked them unconscious. I knocked the dog unconscious, brought them upstairs. And there's this one area where there's not a doorway, but there's like an opening that goes downstairs into the pantry where there's like a garbage bin. And so I tossed his body down there, and then I propped up a whale tankard of the oil, and then I threw the dog's body at the oil tanker and caused it to fall down, and it explodes where the body is.
Dude,
Still technically
that's
died.
awesome.
It checks
That's
off the
so
box,
funny.
dude. But in terms of the actual end credits, I didn't kill anyone. He just happened to die.
Oh my
And there's a lot of those like little intricacies to the game where it's like, well, he died. You know, didn't have to technically be by your hand.
The freedom is insane. Like, there's not a lot of games that will just allow you to pull shit off like that.
Man, I do like how it lets you like wander, and if you feel incompetent, you can do all those side things like gather all the runes and then just power up at your own discretion. But you don't even have to if you don't want to. Like,
No.
Yeah, you
I'd
can
love
just
to
mainline it.
see a 0 power run of this game.
yeah.
Oh, they people do speedruns like that.
Oh, I imagine
it's
so.
it's kind of crazy. The Dishonored speedrunning was like back in the I think that was the first thing that made me like watch like GDQ and stuff like that, was watching the Dishonored like no glitch, you know, speedrun kind of thing, and they're like crazy. And there's so much stuff this game lets you get away with.
They're like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. No, they're like, I don't get detected. I don't kill anybody technically, and it's like, dude, this is
non-lethal
insane.
speedruns. It's crazy.
It's weird. Has anyone actually played Death from the Outside of the Outsider except
Yeah,
Cameron?
I've played it.
I was gonna say,
Oh.
because that game is, well, I mean, I'll ask you anyway. Like, that game's really interesting because it felt like they were designing for that aspect of the community more than the people who, the casual like I was.
I see.
I don't know if anybody knows anything about it, but it is technically only one map, right?
Yeah.
And it's like open plan level, and you just go to different areas of it for the mission. Basically, it's like a test of them trying to reuse assets as much as possible.
And what they do
like,
is really limit your power. Like, they have, I think, 3 main powers.
Yeah, I think 3 main powers, and they're pretty. It's clear that they're funneling you into a specific play style. It's like very much like you should do it stealth. Kind of
I don't know if I like that.
I really liked it up until that point, because I like the challenge of like you're restricted a little bit in your powers, because that could be interesting. But if it's like, no, you have to play it this way if you're gonna get through, that kind of sucks.
It's hard to say. I played Psycho in every game, like including that one. Because I don't think it forces you to stealth everything.
No.
Like, so it does allow those options, but there's like the lack of that. Almost, I don't want to say Bethesda, because like this isn't, you know what I mean. This is a different dev team anyway. But like that analog, or like running around and doing your own like kind of quest, like creating your own journey. It kind of like that gets siphoned out a bit. And it turns into a much more Resident Evil 4, like I'm going from here to here to do the thing and getting it done. Though not quite, just like that kind of vibe. You know what I mean? It's still a good game. It's just different audience too.
That makes it even weirder for me though, because like,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They were such a boutique concept. So
if you're making the next Dishonored game and you make it so drastically different like that, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's why it's not.
right, it's like we're death of the.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
It had the lower price point, and they didn't name it that, and it's got a different protagonist. So like
Right.
it's they try and signal as much like this isn't a mainline Dishonored game. Don't come into it expecting that.
It's like the Far Cry Blood
Yeah,
Dragon
yeah.
or one of those things where it's like it's not a sequel, but it's not quite. It's like a standalone DLC type thing.
I think the best touch point for that would be the Uncharted one, Lost Legacy, I think it is.
Oh,
like where they
okay.
do
Yeah.
that's kind of like similar where it's, you know, you've got the same base mechanics, but the way that you're using them and interacting with the world is different, right?
Okay.
And like we're trying to tell the story in a different way kind of thing. I think it's worth playing. I just don't think it's like to me Dishonored 2 is the peak.
It's really
and
good.
then from there it's Dishonored 1 and Desperados Outsider. I'm surprised. So Shane, did you play the DLC for Dishonored 1? The
Oh god, yes. Please play it.
Dunwall, which
Dunwall,
is,
yeah, Knife of Dunwall.
I've heard that it's the best.
It's
the
so
best
good.
level design in Dishonored 1.
Ooh, okay, I'll download it and give it a try.
It's incredibly good.
Yeah, because I finished Dishonored 1, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna download 2, and you know, I've started I did the tutorial basically.
Yeah, Brigmore Witches and Knife of Dunwall. The time trials they're fun, but like it's not really like anything. But the Knife of Dunwall one and the Witches one is excellent. It provides weird context for 2 that I won't spoil. But you play as Dowd, so it's really fucking cool.
Yes.
One little thing about 2 that I find a little I don't even know if it's like addressed or if it's something that might become a problem later is the ending of Dishonored 1. Spoilers for a 12-year-old game.
Well, we've said spoilers.
Yeah, okay, spoilers.
Okay.
Skip.
Yeah, like a minute. This is really quick. But basically the ending is you are it's very heavily implied that it's like, you were actually the father of Emily. They don't literally say it, but it's very strongly implied. And then it ends with this whole thing of like Emily the Wise, when, you know, the royal protector passed away, they were put in the, you know, family tomb, blah, blah, blah. So I load up 2 and I was like, oh, cool, I'm playing Emily, and that's interesting. But I had this thought, and weirdly, the comparison point I was thinking of was like, stupidly, was Digimon 2, the sequel series, because that ends with like a whole like time skip epilogue where it's like, oh, here's where all these characters ended up, and then in one of the recent movies, they backtrack a lot of it where it's like, oh, that can't happen. That logistically can't happen anymore.
I see.
So I'm like, as I'm playing Dishonored 2, I was like, is this going to do anything that kind of fucks up that continuity of that ending by like retconning something or making something inconsistent? Because it immediately makes me think it's like, well, Emily and Corvo are fine then, because by the nature of me being told that like she gets old and he dies when she's, you know, in her like late years, then it's like, okay, well, I know they're both fine. Which, you know, it's not the biggest thing if I know the protagonist isn't going to get killed, but
I'm a bit of a story head, though I wasn't as much back then, but like stories in Dishonored have never super, you know, hit me in the gut or whatever, or like made me super obsessed. I guess because they expect you, and the devs have said it, that they want the player to imprint themselves or like see themselves in Corvo and depersonalize him as a result in the design. Like, you're supposed to be Corvo, so he can't like be this super.
which mildly disappoints me.
Right, because it's such an opulent world with all these, and it's like, well, I want to pick a character in that world, and you do lose that element, I guess, except that like it also gives you the grand buffet of like, who is Corvo? You get to choose all that and do all that, and it's like,
is he a vengeance-filled murderer, or does he just want to save Emily, and you know he's not about killing everyone? So it's like I get why they took that approach, but it was more like, there's a lot of potential depth to this character that you just don't get because they have to be a silent protagonist. If I were to have a criticism, that would be one of them.
fair.
Personally, the stories aren't that strong for me. And also just by the nature of how the chaos system works, I feel like the endings are open-ended in that way anyway. And then just like the next game just takes whatever I think it's based on the good ending, right, of Dishonored 1 from memory.
The last I saw when I was looking it up, the low chaos endings are considered canon, or more canon, I guess.
But actually, that kind of ties in. How do you guys feel about the chaos system in Dishonored? Because it is like one of those things where So I feel like games have kind of moved away from that style because it's like very much the Mass Effect, like Renegade, Paragon.
I mean,
kind of-
I don't think that's entirely fair because I feel like this Dishonored does more with that than Mass Effect.
This is more
Yes.
about, to me, it's more about the gameplay itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's more gameplay consequences than just like you can slap the alien in the face because you've been so naughty. Like a
Yeah. Punch Jessica Chobot.
yeah. Woo.
I will say the Chaos system, because I've played all the games on Chaos, I don't know what to say because I feel like they should have been slightly more punitive, if anything.
I agree.
Because you're like a fucking god in that game if you invest in get the runes and all that. You are a unstoppable demon freak, like ripping people out and going into blood rage or whatever the fuck, and then getting a free execute for it. And it's like,
Yeah, dude, you can fucking get chain executes at one
Literally.
point. Like, it's ridiculous.
so while they were like, but look out because the rats will be there. I'm like, well, I can teleport, so like,
I control the rats. dude.
literally.
Yeah, I can control a swarm of them.
I can control the rats. Who cares, man?
I'm gonna possess the rats while they're trying to kill me. What are you gonna do then, bitch? It's like, it's so funny. And I guess there are other, like, the game makes you uncomfortable regardless. Like, there are actual emotional consequences. Like, characters are just mean to you, and you're like, but I was killing a bad man, and it's like, I don't care. You're a piece of shit. It's just like,
Killed my uncle.
yeah. So like, it kind of hurts. That was actually the biggest consequence for me over the gameplay.
Maybe the story isn't the best, but the characters are definitely likable enough that you don't want to disappoint them.
I had an emotional reaction to that.
They'll be so fucking. They will fucking tell you when they're disappointed. They're like, "What the fuck? Why would you do that?"
It's like, I see you
And it
killed again,
hurts.
Corvo.
Oh,
been
Corvo,
killing.
you card.
I think the gameplay stuff, like as we're pointing out, it's the best part of the Chaos system. I do wish it was more punitive as well for the Chaos stuff, just because it would make it funner and harder.
Yeah.
Because the game does get pretty easy.
Yeah.
The non-lethal stuff though is really smart in the way that it actually makes the game easier because it is quite difficult as you go on in the game to play that stealth playthrough as they add in different kinds of enemies, different kinds, like the fucking dogs. God, fucking dogs.
The dogs are so. Ooh.
But if you're playing stealth, the game gets easier as the game goes on because there'll be less guards, there'll be less rats.
It gives you more powers and ways to circumvent a lot of the situations that are tougher early game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Using stop time as a crutch. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I know people have commented as well. We were talking about it a bit before about the save scumming. I didn't feel that as much because the game gives you a lot of tools to circumvent that. Like you can see through walls, you can see enemy visions if you go for the powers. Like if you just get the right powers, a lot of that can be like just by foresight, you can kind of like figure out like, okay, well, I shouldn't go that way. Or like I can distract that guard or, possess a rat and crawl past him.
For me personally, a lot of my save scumming was less like, oh, I've reached a checkpoint every time I progress. It's more like, okay, I'm going through this section.
I want to do this perfect.
And I've it's like I want to, maintain a, low chaos and cape it, but I keep fucking up on like a new area where I was like, oh, I just did not see that one guard literally above me. That's my fuck up. It's not
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't want to go back like 5 minutes each time. So it's like, because I've like perfectly figured out the previous area, it's like, okay, I have solved this area to completion enough times. I don't want to waste my time going through it again. I'm going to save state here as if it was a checkpoint.
Yeah.
It also, like, the game gets so much longer when you're playing stealth as well.
it
Something
does.
you'll notice is when you're playing Chaos, you're not giving a shit. You just, like, rush through these
You
levels.
can finish it in like 5 hours.
Yeah.
The entire game. Because there's not a lot of levels.
Yeah, I blasted through the first mission.
Yeah, they are giant fucking levels.
But yeah, you get an appreciation for the level design more in stealth, I find.
Yeah.
Because, you don't have to think about it when you're just murdering.
One thing I did want to comment on when we were talking about like the different types of like runs, the potential for one that I'd be really interested in either seeing how someone would do it or even trying, but I feel I'd get frustrated very fast, is a no dark vision run. Because
Fuck that.
I don't know if this is a universal thing, But it's dark vision in this game kind of creates, I call it the Arkham Asylum problem, where you spend so much of that game just using that. Like it almost kind of makes it hard to appreciate the art direction and the level design, because it's like, well, if I'm exploring a new area, I have to maintain dark vision, because otherwise I'm just gonna fucking run face first into a guard that I just didn't see. And so it really, I don't want to quite say incentivizes, but it really feels like it pushes you to constantly be using dark vision to check out the areas.
Yeah, it's a bit of a crutch a lot of the times as well. I wish there's other games that have done similar systems and implemented them differently, whether it be like you could do like sound, like based on sound, or like the listen mode in Last of Us, where I think there's more interesting ways to have done it, but it is one of those things where like it would be so frustrating to try and stealth that game without it, that it's like, maybe if the effect wasn't so obnoxious, I guess, would be like a solution.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, because The Last of Us is a good option where it doesn't change your vision. It just adds like little sound waves to where enemies are. And it's like, okay, that like kind of makes it so you're not like, you don't have like a brown and yellow filter on your screen 90% of the time.
Another thing that did anybody ever read any books in this game? Or are we just opening and closing them?
I'd be opening and closing. I'd be closing them.
From my memory, I think this is one of the first games to do that kind of thing. I mean, don't quote me on that. I just don't know of any games before it that were...
Skyrim.
Yeah, I was gonna say Skyrim definitely.
Oh, Skyrim.
I don't even think.
Yeah, true.
I don't even think Skyrim was first. I think Skyrim did it the most.
When did Skyrim come out? Like 2010, 2011? It was like
I think 2010.
Last year, a year before. I mean,
because I think it's the only game that's like really struck the good balance for that is Control for me, where it has just enough and they're just short enough and interesting enough that I'll actually read them. But like Dishonored, I'm just like,
it's not even flavor text in the same way where it's like, oh, here's a book where someone's yammering about whales, not to shit on Dishonored, but with Control, it's like, oh, these are like SCP logs. Like this is the shit people like reading outside of playing Control.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting seeing like, oh, here is how to handle this. I forget what Control calls them because they have a specific name for them. Anomalies, something like that.
Anomalies.
But then it'll have like a description. And it's like, oh, if this breaks containment, go into this safe room and, do this. So it is interesting reading them of like, oh, how do they control these things?
Yeah, I think I remember, I mean, I was also very young, but back in there, I started reading and then I just realized how many there were. Like you walk into one room and there's like 5 different books you can read and you're like, I don't know.
And there are multiple pages and it's like, I don't know, man, this is a lot and I'm 12.
And at least it does the nice thing of like, if there is relevant stuff, it will just add it to your notes. It will just like immediately be like, here's a code for a fucking safe or some shit. Or, like, oh, it said like all of these paintings have a number on them or something. Like,
and then the note is just like specifically the sequence that you would need to know or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not interested in wasting your time, which I very much appreciate.
Yeah, it's so fast to just get out of them as well.
It's also always fucking dirt cheap. I'm surprised people haven't, like, if you haven't played it, this game is like, fuck, $1? $2? How much? Like, it's cheaper than fucking like a drink, dude. It's cheaper than most fucking things on earth.
It's also regularly on Humble Bundle.
Peak Fiction at a reasonable price.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god,
it's crazy. It makes no freaking sense. It almost cheapens the entire experience because you're like, I paid $1. This must be crap, but no.
I feel like a developer is out of a house right now because of me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm single-handedly killing Arcane.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
No.
Oh no.
Okay, redact.
Redact.
Strike that from the record.
If you played full price for this game, they wouldn't have had to shut it down. How now?
Hey, maybe if you played low chaos, the devs would have survived.
Oh god.
I think that even like full price, it's fucking $10. That's still insanely worth it.
Yeah, it's still
because they don't. I don't think they sell the normal edition anymore. They only sell the definitive, don't they? Oh, they do not. Okay, never mind. I was wrong. It's $25, dude. It's so cheap.
It's a seal.
Oh, it'll go on sale as well. Like, it'll go on sale for next to nothing. I would recommend getting the definitive edition. I know we haven't talked about it too much, but the DLCs are really worth your time. They just go in on the level design, and a lot of the abilities as well are just really fucking cool. And Dowd's a cool character. Smile.
And also, if it's on Game Pass and PS Plus, like they want you to play this fucking game so goddamn bad. It's kind of crazy.
I got another question to ask you guys from the community. Hayat Rue asks, would you eat a tin of jellied eels to heal yourself in real life?
I would.
Fuck no. Those British people, man. They're always talking about jellied eels and shit.
No, it's from the game.
No, it's from real life.
Because jellied eels is a real food.
Yeah, that is a real
It's
thing.
real.
Is
It's
that
a traditional dish.
What?
You should look it up and feel bad.
Yeah, are you
like,
asking that as if that's like a made up thing?
I thought that was just a thing they came up.
Jellied eels are real. Look at how disgusting
That's
they are.
gross. How do people eat that? I thought it was like a wow. Look how fucking
No,
awful
it's
this,
real.
This,
It's
this
a
fake
fucking-
city
Like,
is.
you're right that it scans that way for Americans anyway. Like, it was a really good pick to put it in for their Brit setting as a major thing you find.
I will say it was really cool playing in modern day Britain in a game.
Oh, true.
Yeah, that is just what the streets look
Jesus
like.
Everything runs on whale oil.
Holy shit.
All the rats.
What's going on, Britain?
People coughing on you.
Real quick, the worst thing about jellied eels is that you eat it with the fucking bones inside, so you have to crunch through bone to get... Dude, fuck that. Absolutely
That's how you
not,
get-
dude. I'd
that's how you
fucking
get the mana.
starve.
It only gives you like 14 points of fucking health as well. It's stupid.
I'd
God.
fucking die, man. I'd fucking... You know what? My health is gonna stay low. I better not fucking hit a pebble or I'll fucking die.
My Corvo loves them though. Actually, he'll just eat any food that's sitting around.
Even
just
if he's full
fuck it,
health.
Even if he's full health.
I'm the same way. I just eat
It's
all
just
the
compulsive.
food.
Oh, God.
He's so big and round.
He's so oomphy.
Shut the fuck up.
Inflates Corvo big and round.
Goofy. No.
Instead of blinking, he just rolls really fast.
It yeah. Inflates him large and square, so he's like a tin of jellied eels. Never mind.
Fuck, man. Jesus.
Another one we got was asked from Super Ripper Hug Me. Was asking if we played high chaos, low chaos, or both, and we already kind of covered that. But what would you guys recommend people do for their first playthrough?
Chaos. Familiarize yourself with the fucking levels and the enemy placement, and then go back with a bit more knowledge.
I'm the exact opposite. I think savor the experience of being like a stealthy assassin, where because a lot of the process of playing stealth is learning your surroundings and being patient and being like, okay, I can do this, this, and then when you finish it, you get to really savor a high chaos where it's like, oh, I can just be fucking God mode and kill everything.
Okay, I see that. One thing I
It
would
feels
say
like
though
it feels
is
like the limiters are removed.
I feel like a lot of gamers are shockingly like non-violent, which sounds weird, but I've met a number of people who play this game and don't want to kill anyone.
Yeah.
But that's also a hamper to like a consistent playthrough because there are hangups and not everyone's as gamer as everyone else. So
Well, I think that's also speaks to the fact that there isn't a lot of good stealth games like this one compared to the
That's
amount of games
true.
where the whole purpose is just fucking kill everything.
right. So I recommend just doing what you're gonna do, but like don't
Do
get
what
fed
you
up if you
wanna.
fail, you know. Just like
Yeah.
roll with it,
Yeah.
you feel. But
These are ultimately recommendations. Yeah.
yeah. But I do like chaos.
That's my ultimate recommendation: is roll with the punches. I think go in like wanting to do stealth and wanting to like
if you fuck up, it's
doing
fun.
the Dishonored like oh I want to be an honorable person, but if you get spotted, fucking kill the dude and don't reload. Just
That's
go
right.
with it. Like be like
That's what they get for seeing you.
The game literally accommodates that type of play style. where
Exactly.
you roll with the punches. Like you fuck up, you can still play it.
and if you
not
get a
gonna
taste
stop.
for blood, keep going. Like just
If all of a
keep
sudden,
killing.
the one murder kind of felt way better than you thought,
You're like, wow, this feels way better than
go
knocking people out.
outside in real life. And
Okay, whoa, chill out.
have a cold breeze in your face because killing is bad.
This is that werewolf chorus is Dishonored is a constant battle between wanting the good ending and the deep primal desire to unleash hordes of rats.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it's so true.
That's exactly it.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up on Dishonored 1?
Play it. That's it. Like, dude,
Yeah.
it's so fucking easy to get. It's easy to get into. It's accessible as hell in many ways.
Yeah.
Fucking play it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's excellent. It still holds up. There are, I would say, actually going back, there were a bit of the, like, just with how the game controls, it felt a bit finicky, but it's still like, it back then it was so tight, and it still feels great now. It's just, there are some, like, a little bit of, like, 2012, I don't know, like, inventory or wheel management kind of things.
It's a fucking controller game.
For sure.
Like the UI and everything is a controller thing. Obviously it plays fantastic whether you're on PC or on controller, but I was playing on controller for the first time and it was super easy.
Yeah, it feels really good on Chaos.
Extra sell to a certain part of the population plays fucking awesome on Steam Deck. That's how I exclusively played it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's like a perfect Steam Deck game.
Fuck yeah.
Steam dick.
Nice.
God,
I'm throwing mine in the trash. Fucking
it's still in my top 10 despite me bitching about it at least once, which means it's fucking good, so you should play it.
Well, that's how you know you love it.
That's true.
You bitch the bitches you love.
That's right.
You know?
Wow. Bars.
Nobody hates Thing like fan of Thing, I always say.
Damn.
I'm saying.
I'm unavoidable. I'm unatoilable.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
If you guys want to vote on the next game, it's going to be between Morrowind, Titanfall 2, Nier Automata, and Kingdom Hearts 2, because we're talking about sequels, baby. Sequels that fucking changed the game. Literally. Made an entire series completely different and much better.
Yeah.
So you're saying Kingdom Hearts
Yeah,
1
that's it.
sucks?
Yes.
Ooh, we're starting drama. Ooh.
That's not... I've said this so often.
But you'll
I don't...
only
Yeah.
find out if you vote for Kingdom Hearts 2 on Patreon.
More like shit them fart, bro.
Nice.
Oh, God.
Sora, more like
Bora.
fucka.
Okay.
Riku, more like piss.
Come on, bro.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. This episode would not have been possible without the help from our patrons, such as Alan Diver, Bland But Funny, Boopaloo, Brain Soup, Cassandra Crash, Chips, Chris Chapman, Dog Named Bear, DX Studios, Echo Soccer, Edward McMillan, Eric Scott Gillies, Ethereal, Fadio, Geef, Generic Phoenix, Guy Beam, Lambda Man, Leo the Geotech, Mr. Starchy, Mr. Shirt, Random Diamonds, Rat Supreme, Ryan Rocket, Skellycopter, Spherical May, The Frost Ace, Ulbert, Wool9455, and Woodstock. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.